Today is a special day as I'm going to be doing a full walkthrough and breakdown of my LEGO idea submission called the Cone. This is an original build and idea that I created that you can vote for right now on the LEGO Ideas website. So without further ado, let's get into it. Before we do go on to this video, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icons for whenever I upload new videos, and most importantly, leave a comment down below if you do like this set. And as I mentioned in the intro, this is an official LEGO Ideas submission, so you can vote for it right now by clicking the link down below in the comments. Every vote counts as it's one step closer to getting to the 10,000 supporters, and it's a long journey, but if you do go on to enjoy this video and you do think this is a really cool build, please make sure you click the link below to vote for my LEGO Ideas submission. Now, let's get through the full breakdown of this LEGO Ideas submission. So like I mentioned in the intro of this video, so this is going to be a walkthrough of how I basically built the Cone, which is my ice cream model, or just my LEGO Ideas submission model. As you can see here. So I'm currently in stud.io. For people who may not know how I design this, I think pretty much everybody uses this software from my understanding. I think it's owned by LEGO, but I could be wrong, but I guess it would be because I think it's owned by Bricklink, and then I think Bricklink is owned by LEGO. But basically I designed it in here. As you can see here, I have all the steps on how I did it in the end. And so in today's video, what we're gonna do is I kind of broke this video down. I wrote it down on the side here just to get an idea. I broke it down to into 5 parts, and this is the thought process and how I go about doing these designs. I mean, there might be a more efficient way, you might have a completely different way of doing it, but at the end of the day, the whole point of it is just to show my process through it, and just to give you an example of what it takes for me to design something like this. And then yeah, and I'll try to go ahead and while I'm talking through, just explain some things and like how long maybe it took me, how many iterations I make of the projects, all that kind of stuff, and then kind of go from there. So the first thing we're going to look at, so this, well, I call it step 1. It's actually the researching and the planning before I actually jump into stud.io. This is actually for me the hardest part. I actually noticed, and especially working on my new model that I'm currently building right now, actually I would say I spend more time trying to find and be inspired by something and actually come up with an idea that I truly like, and I can go ahead and actually do some conceptual designs and go through the whole process. I find that takes just as long, or even not, if not longer, than actually building the thing, because once you have the idea in your mind and what you want to do and a little bit of inspiration, it's usually pretty straightforward how you're actually going to end up doing it. Yes, there's some mechanics that might make it a little bit harder, but usually it's not as like you're not sitting there and getting stuck in writer's block or anything like that. So step 1 is research and planning. So we're not even gonna look at this. We're actually gonna go into my OneNote, and this is actually how I do it. And you'll see here I have a bunch of other ideas on the side here. If you're curious, you can look at it. I will say though that one of, like, I guess I'll put it here. I have this idea is the one I'm currently working on right now. I'll just show it to you anyways, but I'm not gonna show it to you, but it's just an idea I've come up with so far that I'm currently working on. But anyways, back to this. So with the Cone, I really want to do like, and I actually kind of wrote it up here, so we'll kind of zoom in a little bit. I want to do like an 80s style ice cream parlor. I went to the US before I started building this model, and because I live in Canada, and I saw Johnny Rockets, which I think is in the, I don't know if that's how you spell it. I think it's like this. But if you look at like Johnny Rockets, they kind of have like an 80s style kind of diner feel to it. So I want to take that diner feel and turn it into like an ice cream shop. Now, I wanted to create a story behind it as well, and this is where kind of the planning kind of goes ahead with it. So for me, what I really enjoyed is I didn't want to just make a chain. Like Johnny Rockets is a chain and everything's kind of perfect that goes inside of it. I want to do mom and pop shop, which is where this kind of comes into play. In this kind of photo here, this is like a I don't know, this is a random ice cream parlor I ended up finding online. I like the idea that it's, you know, and this is kind of, if you look at the description of this model, it's the main point is like there's basically a family who runs this business. They started it pretty much in the 80s, and then now we're in present day, so it's still got that rustic, not rustic, but more, I guess you could say vintage or 80s feel to it still when you're inside the diner and things like that. So basically what I ended up doing is I wanted to make it basically an ice cream parlor in this case, and use the 80s theme to it. And then in addition to that, actually in my hometown in Calgary, there's actually an ice cream parlor in my neighborhood that I actually went to, and that actually helped me inspire how to do the layout. So the theme was more so to do an 80s, not necessarily directly 80s theme, but it was to start with an 80s theme, but it actually ended up turning into more of the mom and pop style ice cream shop. So it's like there's not a lot going on, but it's enough for them to maintain it. So you'll notice that inside of my ice cream shop, I don't have bright colors in the sense of the bright greens, but it's more simple, because when I wanted to walk into a local ice cream shop, I don't need anything extravagant. I wanted that simpleness, but also it shows that it's been around for a while, and that's kind of my idea. And maybe that doesn't make any sense, but that's my take on it. And again, like, I think it's, you know, at the end of the day, this is what I like to do, and I thought it was fun, and that's what we ended up doing. So that's kind of the first stage. It took me a while to even get to this point. Like I came up with ideas. Like originally I thought the name was going to call it the scoop, but I actually liked it the cone instead. And then kind of what ends up happening after this, after I come up with some ideas, I actually kind of draw a couple of layouts and just try to figure out where I want to go with this build. The one thing that I really wanted to do was make something iconic on it. Originally I wanted to make the cone motorized, but then I decided not to because I just felt like it would be too much for, you know, the other thing too is I find stud.io, the software, is a little bit weird when it comes to motorizing things. But the point is that I want something to stand out. And for me, if you're in a neighborhood and you do really like an ice cream shop, or whether it's a candy shop or anything like that, you want it to be memorable in some way, like in the sense of like there's something that sticks out. It's kind of like when you go to like I was actually talking to one of my friends today. It's kind of like when you go to some like old car washes, like you see the giant sign or something, or you go to like a old grocery store and you can see it's like Dave's Groceries or something. I don't know, it could be anything like that. So I wanted something to stick out that is something you could see in other small local shops, but in this case for ice cream. So I came up with, okay, let's just chuck an ice cream cone on top of it. And that's where I wanted not just to be a building, but it's like its own standalone piece. And then that's where this idea with the ice cream cone came up. And then from there, it just came down to actually just coming up with a layout design. Found this other photo as well that I really liked. I really liked how the windows were. There was a lot of windows, and you'll notice that in that build where I wanted light to get through. I wanted people at any point to see what's inside of the ice cream shop. That was something I really wanted to do. So that's step one. It's just really planning, researching, figuring out what the best thing to do in the sense of this overall idea. Like, how do I take this inspiration, this idea that I came up with, and take it from there? The other thing too is I do really like ice cream, and I also try to look at if other people have done something similar. Some people have. I've noticed that some people have done it in like modular building form, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted this to be a standalone small shop, and that was where I try to find a way to differentiate this in a different way and create a story behind it. So once that's done too, I'm actually going to show you this part. I'm not necessarily the best drawer, but I actually did draw this one out, so I will just show you. I don't really want to scan it because like it's kind of smudgy and stuff, so I'm just going to show you on here. So I'm not at all a good drawer, I'll be honest with you, but I felt like with drawing on one end, it was a little bit not really the best idea. So what I ended up doing is I guess we'll start with this. So I kind of drew the layout, and this is how I came up with the idea too. So you'll notice that like the layout is relatively the same. So you have like, this was like the main layout is just a rectangle. Back here you have like the bar area, then you'd have some seating, and then this is kind of what it actually looks like right now. So I really wanted to have a lot of windows. I wanted to have two sides to the door. I wanted to have people who can actually, you know, sit down on the sides on this side over here. That is the planning process, honestly. Actually, I guess no, sorry, we're past planning. That is the conceptual drawing process. So it's very quick and easy step. So once I have an idea in place, I was like, hey, I gotta make a layout or something that we can come up with. So that's where I got to that point there. So we can get off the OneNote and we can jump right back into here. Then the next part too, so now that we have the idea set, this is how my design process works. And it may be completely different and completely wrong compared to other people, but for right now it works, and we're just gonna go with it. When I design in this software, I never start with the steps, ever. I just will build whatever I want. And what ends up happening is at the end, I'm done building it and I'm happy with it, with all the edits and tweaks, I will rebuild the model. Because then when I rebuild the model, I will consider the steps that are taken into it. Because my issue with this software is that like, if you start with the steps, you end up like remembering, oh, I can only have 10 pieces, or I can only have 4 pieces, and then might go on a tangent and start adding a bunch of pieces, then realize one of your steps has like 30 pieces, and it's too time consuming. So what I do is I like building the model twice, and the reason why I build it the second time too is while I'm building it, is there's something that should be changed. There's something that doesn't make any sense. And so what happens is I will build the first model the first time, and I will say to myself, so I'll build the model however I envision the preliminary design. Then what I'll do is I'll rebuild the model to make it finalized. So if there's any issues or any tweaks I want to make while I'm rebuilding the model, I'll do that. And at the same time, simultaneously, I will go through and adjust the steps. Just looking at this right now, and this we're gonna jump back. I kind of hit a lot of the layers, but basically after I have the conceptual design, I go into basically, now we're in step 3, which is actually building the model. This is where I'll actually go ahead and start with building the layout. This is the most important part for me because I'm building off of this point. I wanted to choose a rectangular base, so I went ahead, made a rectangular base. At this point in the preliminary design, I do not care about colors at all. I really don't. And I do have some other photos that I'll show later on, but at the end of the day, it doesn't, like the colors don't really matter that much to me. I'm obviously thinking about them and I'm trying to find things that match, but it's about building the structure first. And that's where coming back and rebuilding again is more important for me. Here's about getting basically everything in my mind onto this piece. And that's where I'll come up with a bunch of different iterations. You'll notice here that this is like a Rev 1 version. I will actually pull it up. I do have a lot of versions. So I actually created, oh, this one I only had 2 versions of it. Actually, you'll notice here, I did actually build a different render of it originally. And then, yeah, like the point I'm trying to make is that like I start with a preliminary design and kind of go from there. So let's start with the first couple layers. I don't even know which layers I hit. So let's do this again. We're gonna hide the first, we're gonna go 50 steps at a time because, okay, so first things first, I go ahead and build the base. And then at that point, it's about the layout. You got to frame I have to frame the project. So I know I want sidewalks on this side. I know I want windows here, all the way around. I want a door back here for entrance for when they walk into the building. I want windows. I want another door here, another door here. So the layout is set. That's pretty much it, honestly. And sometimes when you already have a conceptual design, as you remember in my drawing I showed you, like I already know what I'm going to do. The actual size of it, and that's where you kind of play around with it. I think I just did, are these 16 by 16? Yeah, these are 2 16 by 16 plates. And then I just extended them, I think, with 6 by 6 plates all the way around. I guess you can say it's, what, 6, 32, 16. I guess you could say it's the 32 by 32 plate. I just reorganized it. Okay, so once that's been complete, this is like the easier part, is actually just building the whole layout itself. So what we'll do is we're going to unhide the next 50 steps. I don't know a better way of doing this. If someone in the comments knows a better way of instructing this, I think it'd be better. I don't want to show you the instruction manual because honestly, it's not like anything Lego quality. It's literally just me thinking this is the best way to do the steps for this. So now we're on to the next part here. So this is where, and I want to kind of emphasize this, the details. So when I'm doing the preliminary design, a lot of these details aren't actually in it. So for example, you won't see the clock or the trophies or the lights. All that's really happening is I'm going through and I'm building the structure of the piece. So I did originally want to have this idea of creating depth in the wall and using different types of pieces. So you'll notice here I've got your typical, what are they called, the masonry bricks, and then this one here I did the grooves, or I think you use these mostly for like, you can use them for like garage doors or something like that. So I really wanted to bring out the texture that comes to this, but when it comes to like these lights, or when it comes to the tables on the inside, or even the bar itself, this was something that came later on. I knew where I wanted to put the bar. It was going to be in the middle. It has to be a front and center piece. I knew that. Let's talk about this from a building perspective, right? So if you're thinking on the basis of like of an architect, when you're walking into a building, what's the flow of traffic that you want? So I want people to walk in on any side, come right to the cashier, go get their ice cream, and then they can walk right out. And you can do the same thing really either way. You can walk out this way. It doesn't really matter. So, and then at the same time, if you're leaving here, you want to sit down and enjoy your ice cream at the same time. So these are things that I'm thinking about. And then most importantly, if I am working for the ice cream shop, okay, I need a different door to come into. I want to go through the back door. And then from here, I want to go and do the job, the work here. I have a little gate here, which actually comes up later on. And then from there, you know, if I have to grab some stuff from the desk, again, this is details I added later on. There's a fridge here that's available for me at that time. The main thing here, and this is what I really, really wanted to do, and is adding the glass windows. I did not want, and you can see an example, if you look at the back side here, there's no windows, and that's fine because I want people to see it from these two perspectives, this side and then also from this side as well. When you're displaying this model, you would display it in this angle that I'm showing right now, and it's because then you can see through, you can see what's happening on the inside. And you'll actually notice in my renders, yeah, like these are some of my renders, but you'll see here, I actually render it on the side because I want you to be able to see what's inside here. I know it's a little bit more of an angle down, but also these are old renders because I didn't do it like this, but here's an example of what it did look like at one point with how the sign went in the cone. I don't remember where my actual renders are. I don't think these are not the ones. Those are some old renders. Anyways, or actually, I guess the other thing too, before we do that, let's talk about this bar. I wanted to just create something where you can just have access to the flavors. I really wanted to use the ice cream cone flavors itself because my thought process is that when you actually look at some of the renders, which we'll give you an example here, you can go in and grab literally a scoop of ice cream and put it on your cone. I know you can change it so you just have like a layer of that looks like ice cream, but I wanted to make it so it's like you actually are physically taking that piece of Lego and putting it on your cone. And that's why I made the details like that. I wanted to utilize what those pieces were. Same with the popsicles. And then I thought that would be a really interesting way, because I know you can easily make this as it's all orange and then someone be going in there and scooping it for you. But I really wanted just to show the ice cream itself. I didn't want to make it look like people are like, oh, is that paint or something? They didn't know what it was. Like when you look at this, you know it's ice cream. And that's what I really wanted to emphasize in that sense. And so I just made a little cool detail so it's like easy to scoop out of or anything like that. So that was basically the basis of the bar. And then obviously add a cash register on the side there. Here, we'll move move on to the next 50 steps. Another aspect you'll notice here too is like, this is where we're adding details. And again, I want to emphasize, and this is maybe not the best way I should have done this video, but it is what it is right now because we're already into it. Again, a lot of these details came later on. So when I'm originally building this, I didn't have any minifigures. I barely had seating outside. I didn't have the lights on the inside. Didn't have like the different custom photos and all in the menu and all that stuff there. A lot of these details came afterwards, but for me, it was about building the structure. So like we said, we have the windows that you can see through at any point. I like to having, I don't even know what these are called, curved top. I don't know, I really like this idea, and that's why I really wanted to put that in there. And then you'll notice like, and this is actually a good example because I think pretty much all the details are here. I don't know if there's anything missing. What I really wanted to do, and this is where I wanted to maximize the space of the Lego store, but I don't want to make it too crowded. That's where, like in this case here, yeah, you know, when you're looking at it from the like, let's look at it from the behind the bar perspective. You've got, you know, all the different cabinets, bowls, spoons, cups, whatever it is. Like it's full. There's stuff happening in the back. You've got your fridge with additional ice cream. And this was another reason why I wanted to show the ice cream here, is to show that it comes from the freezer in this case. Usually when you're going to an ice cream shop, there is usually a little bit of space. You can sit around, you can eat, you can enjoy it. I didn't want to cram it too much. I wanted to show that there's like, and the reason why I did this is actually based off the one that's in my neighborhood, is like, you have space where you can, after you're done eating ice cream, you can go and stand here, you can go and sit down, you can go sit at the table. There's room for you to do that, and that's where I really wanted to emphasize in that sense too. The second thing you'll notice as well is that they're not necessarily, this kind of ties back to the planning, like this, the 80s feel isn't there in the sense that it's got all the vibrant colors. That wasn't really what I was going for. The 80s feel is that this is mom and pop style. So like, it's not going to have the most advanced technologies kind of thing. You're not going to have like TVs or anything. It's just going to be nice paintings. They have their awards because they're proud of, they've been in business for a while. It's very simple. Everything is there that's there, but it also fills up the space. And that's kind of what I was going for. Yes, this is something that would be outdated. You would never see this in the store, like this kind of arch thing here, but I really want to add that in. You've got these older-ish lights, same idea there. You've got like the brick wall on the background, and that was the whole basis of it, is I wanted to express that this is, in my opinion, when I see this, I look at it as more of like a mom and pop style ice cream shop, and that's what I was kind of going for, and that's what I think is really cool in the end. So the next thing as well though, and then we'll kind of go out to the exterior as well. This is where I wanted to fill up the space. Again, I wanted to add more color. Obviously we've got the brown, the white, and the red. Those are pretty much the dominant colors. So that's where I wanted to build a bouquet. I thought this was a really cool, I kind of made it up as I went along and thought it would be a really interesting idea. I added some animals, I added a bench, I added a newspaper stand, because again, usually if you go to these older places, you would find a newspaper stand. Nowadays you don't see that anymore, but that's where those little details play a factor. And you've got these red chairs. Like, no one gets red chairs anymore. These are something you would only see at these older stuff, not older, but like more, they've been around for a while kind of shops. And that's, again, what I was going for. You know, same thing here. You got a light post, there's a rat, and you know, like just little details that create more of a story when you're watching this, in that sense. So, and then we'll kind of go, and I'll just top off the end here. There's a couple more details. Like, I don't think you can see it, or I guess you could, but there is a little gate inside there. Then what I wanted to do as well is, because it's an older roof, I want to show that there's some wear and tear, which is where all these little like kind of extra additional pieces comes in. And then on top of that, I wanted to build a nice little bird's nest. I thought that would be really interesting and fun to do at the same time. And then lastly, which is the cone. Like, I wanted to make it so it's like, want to come to this ice cream shop, you would come in here and be like, oh, like I'm going to the cone because it's the one that has the giant ice cream cone, because it's the most random thing ever. And if you look at, like, a good example is like McDonald's has a golden yellow arches. You know, if you go to Wendy's has the big sign with like the, whatever her name is, Wendy, I guess. Just things like that. Like, I wanted to show, because those were built in the 80s and 70s, actually 50s for McDonald's and all that stuff. And I wanted to show that it's like the same idea. Back then, that's what they used to have, is like these giant obscure pieces. Nowadays, everything's simple and it's just like a logo, and like that's it. Like, you see a check mark and that's Nike, and everyone knows that. And that's where this kind of idea comes in as well. In addition to that, because the fridge is on this side, put the air conditioning or kind of like AC unit to keep everything cool inside. And then finally, just adding the sign in. I don't know, I just thought I'd just come up with a cool idea. I thought it was interesting to do something like this. The thing with me for this one was trying to make sure that it created depth in the sign, but also you could see through it. I didn't want to just make it like a brick wall, because then you couldn't really see the cone. So that's where like I kind of had them all standing on, you know, one or two signs or one or two pegs, or if it's like the H's, they stand on 2 pegs, or the E's. And then that's kind of really it. And other than that, you're just about adding detail. You know, I want to make it so that there's like, you know, kid here drinking coffee, and then there's a girl with her mom getting a popsicle and ice cream. Then there's another gentleman who's finally had ice cream for the first time in a long time. You've got like the guy in the back who's actually working. And that's kind of where like that part comes in. So again, that's the building experience. This is obviously what takes up the majority of the time, which is, well, not majority of the time, but this is where like the actual work really happens in that sense, outside of the planning, obviously. But what I end up doing in this case is usually on the preliminary design, a lot of these details aren't there. And that's where I will build the structure and be like, hey, like this is, I'm happy with this design. Now we need to rebuild it. And the reason why I rebuild it is because then I'm thinking about it from a step perspective. How do I make sure that I'm conforming to the specifications built by Lego so that you're building it properly? Like, what that means is you can't just have 100 pieces on a page. You can't do that. So when I'm building the instruction manual, it has to make sense. And that's what I'm referring to. After I built the preliminary design, that's when I go and add the details. I'll change the colors of the chairs. I'll change the colors of certain tiles. I'll go and change patterns. I'll make sure that the bouquet of flowers makes sense. I'll make sure that the ice cream cone itself is built properly. You know, like this one is interesting because like if you go through and actually a bunch of little sub models that go with it, like this whole thing's got its own steps that go with it, and there's different plates, and yeah, there's so many little details that go with all of these pieces. So it's just making sure that I'm accounting for all those details and the details make sense. The worst thing, in my opinion, is making a Lego set where you have so much going on, you don't know what to focus on. And for me, what I want people to see is on the outside, this is an ice cream shop. You don't even have to think about it. You know it's an ice cream shop, from the people holding the cone to the literal cone on top of the building. And then when you're inside, it's like all you're thinking about is ice cream. I don't want to have a random fountain that's in the middle or a chandelier that just takes up unnecessary space. I want people to just to focus on what the principle is of this design. And that's kind of what I went with. So yeah, so once that's done and I rebuild the design and I finalize the design, that's where I go ahead, add all those details, you know, change out anything that I need to change, and then make sure like the steps actually make sense. And then from there, it's, am I happy with the design? I do, sometimes I show some people, have, you know, get a little peer review, see if there's anything I could have missed, anything that doesn't make any sense, anything where the bill's like, like, you sure you want to go ahead and do that? Little things like that. So yeah, that's actually how we build it. And I will show you one more additional step, and this is where it comes to like the promotion of it. So the other aspect too is, okay, so once I'm done, what I'll actually go ahead and do is actually build and render it out as best as I can. So I create basically a thumbnail for this, and this is probably going to be on the thumbnail of this video as well. But like when I want people to check it out, so I take some time, I go into Photoshop, I add whatever I think is necessary to make this stand out in some way. And then most importantly, it's like selecting the photos as well. So on the inside, I want people to see that this is an ice cream shop. You can see all the interior details, that, hey, you can walk in and you can go and check out all these flavors. I want to show different perspectives of it as well. Show that like different angles of it, wherever it end up may be, and like, and just to give an idea so that people can see the whole picture. So side alley. And then here's another idea too. So it's like when you're on the street perspective, you can actually go in and see what's actually going on. That's another thing too. You can see inside, oh, it's an ice cream shop. Maybe we can go in and grab some ice cream. And I want to create more of like a positive atmosphere that kind of goes with that. Another perspective here, this one here, you can actually see the back a little bit more, with there's the fridge with the additional ice cream. You know, there's a broom in the back, a sink, wash. You just got a spoon there to scoop up ice cream, and an additional bowl, additional stuff at the bottom there as well. That's the other aspect too, is like, how do I promote this as well? So it's selecting the right photos. I do go ahead and try to edit them. So like there is one that stands out. I will be trying to increase that as well. So one thing I might try definitely on the next time is actually outlining all the different things. So I'll have one photo like this. The next one, what I'll probably do is like separate if it's like a roof and a building, and then have like lines that point out what each item is, just to give the audience more of an idea of what is actually happening. And then on top of that too, you'll notice if you do follow my channel, I do actually post content when it comes to, so again, I am making this content for Lego Ideas. So if you did enjoy this video, going ahead and clicking the link in the description, voting for this build would mean a lot to me. These do take a lot of time. I think I spent, I want to say probably at least 3 months of my time. Again, you're not doing this full time, but it's like on and off, at least 3 months going through and building this, planning this, and it spends a lot of time. So, you know, every vote counts. It's one step closer to getting to 10,000, but most importantly, it's one step closer to getting to the next milestone. The first milestone is 100 supporters. The next one's 1,000. The next one after that, I think, is 4,000 or 5,000, so on and so forth. So every vote counts. If you do enjoy this build, you know, please click the link in the description. Please vote for my build, because it does mean a lot to me. I put a lot of time and effort. I'm very passionate about this. I plan continuously to release more models or builds like this, and just showing them off to you guys, and hopefully one day one of them could even get close to that 10,000 mark, or even if it doesn't, I'm just happy to do it. You know, it is what it is, and I'm really happy and really proud of this build. I hope one day I actually go ahead and buy all the pieces and actually build it myself. I think it would be a really cool idea to do one day. So with that being said though, that is the end of this video. Again, if you did really enjoy this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below, but most importantly, you can can vote for this model right now on the Lego Ideas website. So if you do want to check out any of my other videos, click on one of the 2 videos up here, hit the subscribe button, and most importantly, I will see you guys in the next one. So see ya.